You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, Imaging Services, Chiro Thin, Universal Tractioning Systems, Chiro Moguls, Zingit Solutions, Dr. Peter Goldman's Zone School of Healing, Evers Coaching Systems, Rhino Coaching, Chiro Matchmakers, Bax Max, 5-Star Management, and the Goodman Factor. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode, that can't be right, 99. What? Episode 99 of Chiro Hustle. I'm your co-host Luke. Here's your host, Jim.
Hey everybody, so this is a pretty special episode for us today. We had the opportunity of interviewing Christine Zapata, and just to let you know that you can start from anywhere and become great with chiropractic. Just listen to this episode and see how that's possible.
And then stay tuned for our special 100th episode where we have a twist. You'll just have to see.
Jim and Luke talk.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Dr. Christine, tell us what your chiropractic story is and what influenced you to become a chiropractor.
Yeah, that's a good question. I love telling this story. Growing up, I was a super active child. I loved playing sports. When I was about 10 or 12, I shot up to 5'2", and I played basketball and soccer. And being so tall at such a young age, in soccer, they put me in as a goalie, and that was my favorite position to play. I loved playing goalie, and I was really good at it. I played I was on the traveling select team, played for a lot of rec teams, played in high school, and my sophomore year of high school, I suffered from a series of sports injuries. And I had a lot of head trauma. I was involved in a serious car accident. I was trying to make a left-hand turn one night after getting out of work, and another car had ran a red light and it hit me. And all of these injuries happened within like 6-8 months, and it left me with debilitating migraine headaches, and I was in really poor health. My migraine headaches would get so bad that I couldn't move. I was stuck in bed because any light, sound, or noise would really get me nauseous. I was missing a lot of school, and I got to a point where I had to stop playing sports. And without soccer in my life, I suffered from depression. And it got to a point where my parents, they're great. They did the best that they could. They took me to the doctor. They took me to different specialists. I did acupuncture, physical therapy, massage therapy, all in an effort to try to regain my health. And it got to a point where on one visit with my doctor, he told me that I was going to have to take two tablets of ibuprofen 4 times a day. And mind you, these ibuprofen tablets were the size of my thumb. And I'd have to break them up into several different pieces just to take them. I was doing this 4 times a day. I got to a point where I told my parents, I'm like, I can't do this. This isn't sustainable. Like, I don't want to have to resort to taking this. Because my doctor said to just take ibuprofen until I got better. And so out of desperation, my parents took me to a chiropractor. My parents are immigrants from the Philippines, and chiropractic was not really part of the healthcare that they were familiar with. My father at the time owned an automotive repair shop, and he was talking to one of his customers one day about the challenges that he was having with me and how I just was in really bad shape. And they told him to take me to their chiropractor. So again, out of desperation, my parents took me to a chiropractor, and soon after starting chiropractic care, I started to see some really positive changes in my health. And one by one, each person in my family also got under chiropractic care, and they started to see the positive changes that were happening in their own health. And you would think that with that experience, that is how I got into chiropractic as a profession. However, that actually wasn't enough for me to want to become a chiropractor. I always knew I wanted to help people, and growing up, I thought I wanted to be a medical doctor. After high school, after I graduated, I moved to San Diego, and I went to San Diego State, and I took all the necessary courses to try to get into medical school. And the summer after my junior year at San Diego State, I decided to work with a medical doctor in the private practice to see what it was like and to see what I was getting myself into. And I had a great experience there, learned a lot. At the end of the summer, I ended up telling the doctor I was working with, said, hey, I'm thinking about becoming a doctor myself, and I want to go to medical school. What do you think about that? And she looked me dead in the eye and said, Christine, medicine is very different now than when I was in medical school, and I think that it's going to continue to change. If there is another career where you can help other people and really make an impact, I think you would be better served if you did that, whatever that is. And I went back to San Diego State, entering my last year of college, thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do now? This medical doctor is telling me not to go to medical school. And I had continued chiropractic care even after moving and after high school. And when I got back to San Diego, my chiropractor at the time, she was great. She asked me upon my return, how was your summer? What'd you do? And I told her about how I had worked in this medical doctor's private practice. I was thinking about going to medical school, and now she's telling me that I should actually find a different career. And she said, if you want to be a doctor, have you ever considered going into chiropractic school and becoming a chiropractor yourself because of all the positive changes you've seen in your own health, in your own life? And I told her I had actually never considered it, even though chiropractic has been so beneficial for myself. And she invited me to hang out in her office for a semester. And I spent every afternoon in her office just doing odd things, filing, taking out the trash. I was really just a fly on the wall. And it was amazing to me. By the end of that semester, hanging out in her office, I could see a very big difference between a medical doctor's practice and a chiropractor's practice. I loved how her office was very different. In the medical doctor's office, people are only going there when they're sick or something's wrong. Rarely are they ever in a good mood because something's wrong. And I noticed that the doctor really didn't know much about her patients beyond what was inside their chart. And the chiropractor, I loved how she knew, she was a part of people's lives. She knew what was going on in their lives outside of her office. She knew whose kids were going to have a t-ball game on Saturday. She knew who was getting married, who was going on vacation, where they were going. Because it was very close to San Diego State's campus, she knew when midterms were, when spring break was. And I really loved that aspect of my chiropractor's practice. I love that she was just dialed into her community. And at the end of that semester hanging out with her, I told her that I was going to go to chiropractic school, and I never looked back after that.
Wow, what a great story. I think that there's so many takeaways within what you just shared with us, from being an athlete to understanding that chiropractic is a good career choice. When I got into chiropractic care myself, I got in because of an injury playing high school football. And I didn't go on to become a chiropractor, obviously, but I went on to, really believe in the chiropractic method. And I think that everybody out there that understands that chiropractic is more than just, helping people for neck pain and back pain. It's actually a great career for people as well. And that's something that you found out of it, which I think is awesome. And one of the things that I've got to know from you is that you're an upper cervical practitioner. How did you decide on that being like what you really wanted to do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I really didn't get exposed to upper cervical chiropractic until about a year before graduation. And I went to Life Chiropractic College West, and at the time we had to know 6 core techniques before we graduated. And one of the last electives I ended up taking was an upper cervical technique. It was Nuka. And I remember sitting in the back of class on the very first day, just fascinated by how, they're telling us if the bones in the upper neck can support the weight of the head, then the rest of the spine will be balanced. And I approached my professor at the time after that class and said, this is fascinating. What is the best way to learn more about this? I was just so intrigued. And she told me the best way to learn more about it was to become a patient and see what it did for myself. And I saw even more positive changes in my life, not just my health, but just my life in general, once I got under upper cervical chiropractic care. And started with Nuka, practiced the Nuka technique for a couple years after I graduated, and then switched over to the Blair upper cervical technique a couple years into practice, and moved to Seattle, Washington. And I've been here for the last 10 years doing it.
Yeah, that's it's really inspirational to hear how, if you want to know something, how you should just go try it. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of the things that we do in this world is we learn through experience. And I think that that's one of the great things about chiropractic is it teaches people from an early age or an old age from experience that it's a positive effect on your life. Mm-hmm. And everybody always wants to talk business matters of ROI. Well, there's an exponential amount of ROI involved when you feel good and you can produce.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And if we're getting that from the impulse of an adjustment, or if we're getting that from the information source of a health provider like a chiropractor, I think that, anybody that jumps in and understands the chiropractic lifestyle, whether they're, an athlete that's going through, the development of becoming a top, level athlete, or whether they've been in some type of an issue where they get, injured and they have to get some type of rehab. There is a real reason why when people start getting adjusted that their body starts getting healthy, because there is that thing of vertebral subluxation that if people's bodies aren't healthy, then they don't thrive. And chiropractic's the one profession out there that can help people with that.
Yep, absolutely.
So we're going to transition into the next question with you. What is your mantra or quote that helps you with your commitment as a chiropractor?
Oh, yeah. One of my favorite quotes is from Robin Sharma. He wrote a book, one of my favorite books, called The Greatness Guide. And in it, he says that the best among us are not more gifted. They just take small steps each day towards their biggest life. And that really helps me throughout my day, because I know that it's important to commit to little things. It's the little things that you do that turn into big things. Consistency is key, and I think that everything that you do, all of your actions, they have to move you towards something bigger, a bigger vision, a bigger goal. So that's something that sits with me every day.
Yeah, it's important to have that type of, consistency and commitment to ourselves. And, there's no secret recipe for success. It usually happens as a cumulative effort.
I had a question. What is this technique you guys are talking about? Nuka?
Nuka.
What is I've not heard of that before. Can you just briefly describe what that is?
With the Nuka technique, it's an upper cervical technique that works to break resistance. It is holding the atlas in an abnormal position. So they're using vectors to break resistance. They focus on the atlas bone, the first bone in the neck.
So how do you think chiropractic might change if more doctors studied the Nuka technique?
I think that if more people got exposed to upper cervical technique, just not just Nuka. It's been a long time since I've practiced Nuka, but I think that upper cervical techniques within chiropractic are really beneficial for people because everything has to travel through the brainstem, and the brainstem sits just inside the first two bones in the neck. And if we can make changes to how the upper neck region is protecting the brainstem and holding up the head, then I think that the nervous system and the body can function as well as it's designed to. And I think that it is a very unique area of the spine, and I don't think that enough people focus on it.
Yeah, I think that when you get a good correction to the upper cervical region of a spine, you actually free up a lot of people's, dysfunction and the things that people either become injured from or they just have, need for spinal health. I think so many people that when you start taking care of the upper cervical region, you free up their bodies to start expressing their real life force, and it's not locked up.
Yeah. A lot of people out there just think that chiropractic is for neck pain and back pain. And there are some chiropractors out there who think if the low back is bothering someone, they should adjust the low back. But sometimes that's not necessarily where someone's structural problems are stemming from.
Yeah, the whole body's connected, right? From every segment of the spine controls different parts of our organ system, and I think a lot of the general public doesn't know that either.
Yeah. Yep.
And that if you start freeing up the neurological patterns to the body to fire the way they're supposed to, then the body has spontaneous remission. Go figure. Mm-hmm. Like the body's functioning the way it's supposed to. It's healing. That's awesome, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as we develop more, as the chiropractic profession develops more, we need to start making it easier for people to understand that if you're adjusted, you just function better and you're healthier.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so, on the topic of advancements in chiropractic, where do you see the profession heading in 20 years?
Oh, gosh, that's a good question. In 20 years, I honestly don't know. I think that with some of the recent things that have happened, I know that there are chiropractic schools out there that are trying to remove our vitalistic philosophy and our focus on vertebral subluxation. And I think that if we have chiropractic physicians out there who are trying to fit into the medical model, I think that chiropractic as a profession will be very different than what it is now and what it has been. I think that as a profession, we really need to unite. And I think that that's something that a lot of other chiropractors that you've interviewed on this podcast have said. We really need to unify as a profession. I think we look like children fighting. If we want to be taken seriously by the public, I think we really have to unify. You have chiropractic schools that are teaching the philosophy. There's a lot of infighting within chiropractic. There are a group of chiropractors who are focused on vaccines and all these other things that are going on in healthcare. And I think that if we don't unify, it's going to be harder and harder for us to be taken seriously. I think that we really need more inspiring, principled chiropractors to step up and focus on mentoring and developing chiropractors or sharing the message that is, I think now, might be starting to get watered down.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Close for Chiro, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, Imaging Services, ChiroThin, Universal Tractioning Systems, Chiro Moguls, Zingit Solutions, Dr. Peter Goldman's Zone School of Healing, Evers Coaching Systems, Rhino Coaching, Chiro Matchmakers, Bax Max, 5-Star Management, and the Goodman Factor. Let's hustle.
Yeah, I think you hit a lot of things on the nail on the head there with the hammer. I think that unity is huge when it comes to the outside person looking in. And I think that, the profession's super valuable. And I know that the more that we can all, have more support rather than distance, that really helps out the whole, the whole profession of chiropractic. And I do think long term, if we do want to have sustainability and a good reputation, if that's a good word to use, chiropractors need to start realizing that you're more alike than you are different. Yeah, and as we transition into the interview with you, I know that a major part of what we talk about with all of our interviews is the marketing. What do you like to do for marketing that helps you grow your chiropractic business?
That's a good question. I think that when it comes to marketing, one of the things that has really helped me build my practice is just focusing on relationships. Relationships with patients, relationships with other professionals in the community or influencers in the community. I've grown my practice with a lot of referrals from patients or other professionals in the area, and I think that is something that is super important. That's something that I don't think that many people really focus on. And I think that that's super important when it comes to marketing. Your marketing creates awareness. It may not necessarily bring you new patients. And so if you're out forming relationships with people who influence others, who can take care with you, I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's another really cool thing is the next question we're going to ask you is about marketing with social media and what your favorite technology or app is. But I think, early on, everybody has to realize that before social media was ever a thing, that you had to go out there and build relationships in your community and build your practice. I think that old school marketing is definitely super valuable to the chiropractor, and they can't just lean on, technology for their growth. I think that the more you go out there and you get in professional networking groups, it's a huge bonus. Do you have to do that for 10 years? Not unless you like it. But I think a lot of times when people get out there and they realize that building relationships in their community makes them a referral engine. And it turns them into that referral source because, when you start shaking people's hands and you start becoming familiar to them, they look to you as the expert in the community.
Yeah, and I think it's important to build these relationships with other healthcare professionals or, again, other influencers in the community because if you are seen as someone who is an authority in your profession, and, for instance, I work with a lot of acupuncturists and massage therapists who will refer people to me, and I'll refer out to them because I tell people it takes a village to take care of someone. It's not just going to be me and chiropractic that's going to help someone. They need to look at all aspects of their health. I may need to send them out to work with a registered dietitian, or they may have a relationship with their medical doctor, and we want to make sure that we're all on the same page because really we're all working to try to help someone regain their health.
Yeah, and that's just it, is I think as we come into like the year 2020, the people, our society, our culture, we're faced with so many different types of, toxins and poisons and, traumas and things of that nature. I think that the body goes through a lot more stress in a modern world that we've created with technology and, people's habits. I think our daily habits have changed a lot. And we're evolving into a different type of culture that needs different types of union within the practices. I think that people have to have a long referral list of natural healers, and I think that chiropractors are definitely a huge component of that. But I think that there's also a chiropractic adjustment isn't going to make somebody drop 30 pounds.
Yeah.
there's things that we have to really focus in on. And, if you stay in your lane, now you can know how to refer somebody out to your other, trusted resources.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And that makes you referable back.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's always great too. So let's talk technology a little bit, and let's talk a little bit about advertising. What do you use to your advantage for advertising on either social media or local?
With social media and our advertising, what we try to put out, because I'm in Seattle, Washington, very techy in my area. And what we try to put out there is something that's really fun and clever and community focused. I think that with what we're putting out is really trying to show the general public just how awesome we are without throwing out a bunch of chiropractic or health related things. And I think that is something that really helps us stand out, because there are a lot of chiropractors in the area, and if they're hearing the same message from everybody, it's hard to stand out. So if you follow us on social media, a lot of the things that we put out tend to be more fun and more engaging. We also really try to focus on our social proof. My office has over 100 Google reviews. We try to highlight that because it's people that are part of our community sharing their stories. And it's oftentimes those stories that people see that gets them into the office, or at least thinking about investigating chiropractic care and how it might be able to help them. For a long time, social media and technology wasn't that. I've been practicing for over 12 years, and I focus more on relationship building because technology wasn't that big of a focus. But now I think with where we're at, now I think just as a culture, everything is more digital and more technology based. So that's kind of where we've shifted over the last couple years.
So do you have a favorite app or technology to keep you engaged with your patients or practice members?
I would say that when we engage with our patients, it's really social media or email. Not everybody, and most people are on Facebook or Instagram, but some are not. So we will focus on both. And I think one of the things that we've really worked on recently is focusing on not necessarily the number of followers that we have, but the number of engaged followers. I don't think it really matters if you have 10,000 people who like your Facebook page, but every post you have up on there gets like 1 or 2 likes, and how many people are actually seeing your content. And so we've really focused on engaging our community. So not just with social media, but with email as well, because not everybody will see the stuff that we post. So we try to send out emails and make sure that people get to hear our message in different avenues.
So now we're going to talk about you a little bit. What are some of your favorite hobbies? What do you like to listen to? Are you in the middle of any good books right now?
I try to, because I live right in the heart of Seattle, my office is in the heart of Seattle, I'm essentially in a concrete jungle, so I try to get out as much as possible. I love being out in nature. And one of the things that I do is listen to podcasts when I'm hiking or I'm out for a run. Right now, I'm heavy into the Black Diamond Club podcast, which focuses on helping entrepreneurs, or at least service professionals, with entrepreneurship, because it's something that no matter what profession we're in, school doesn't really teach you about those things. And I think that Sean Dill does a really good job of exposing us to innovative things that can just help us grow in our businesses. So right now I'm heavy on the podcasts. I don't read a whole lot as far as like books, because I'm just always on the go, so it's hard for me to just sit and read through a book. So I'm usually listening to things.
Yeah, that's great. It's great to learn what other people are, how they're learning, how they're teaching, who they're network with, and kind of, what makes you tick in the day. And I know Luke and I like to read books, and Luke likes to listen to books.
Yeah, I'm more listen.
But we all learn from a different medium, and that's the cool thing about where we are today is some people are auditory, some people are visual, some people like you couldn't get them to do anything but watch a video, like you couldn't get them to read or listen to anything. So some people are like they're more inclined to watching like a screen. Whereas I think I learn best from when I can pull a highlighter out and I can like make comments in the margins. Some people just don't see that's not appealing to them anymore because they realize that they could like biohack themselves and speed up a podcast by like 2 speeds and they could listen to it fast.
Yep.
Or you can do that with a book as well,
Yep.
So I'm like, how do you get that information so fast? And people are like, yeah, I do it at a quicker pace, so I listen to it faster.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Do you know that?
I did not know that. I didn't know people were that crazy.
I think on my Audible, I've got everything going at like a 2x speed.
See?
So.
Wow. What happened?
So Luke actually likes to take music and slow it down so it changes like the way that people sing.
I take songs and I change like the pitch to make them sound like a totally different person, and it's kind of addicting. I like mine better. So, what are some web resources you can give people if they wanted to learn more about you and what you're doing?
You can check out our website. It's emeraldcityspinal.com. Or you can find us on Facebook or Instagram, also under Emerald City Spinal Care.
And is there anything that we've gone through with you that we didn't ask you that you like to share with our audience?
One of the things I always like telling people is it's really important to surround yourself with the right people. I've heard that you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with most. And if you look around at the people that you're hanging out with, are they people who inspire you and challenge you and support you? I think that it's important to be around people who are going to help elevate you to the next level. I'm very thankful that I have great mentors and coaches who help me. I work with Sean, Dill, and Lacey Book. I'm part of the Black Diamond Club and their smaller coaching group, the IPO group. And I love being part of that. I also coach with Noel Lloyd. He's part of 5-Star Management, and within that group, I'm also part of their smaller group, which is Galaxy. I love being around other chiropractors who are doing or maybe have done what I'm trying to do, because I think that there's just so much value, so much knowledge and wisdom that gets shared when you're around people who can motivate you and elevate you.
Yeah, that's absolutely necessary. You gotta vibe with your tribe.
Yeah.
And the great thing about Noel and Sean is they lead from the front, and that they are great at managing their tribe and giving them the resources that they need to be successful.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. Christine, I want to thank you very much for being our guest today.
Thank you. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Jim. It's such an honor to be part of this podcast and to share with the listeners. I'm very thankful to have had this time with you guys.
Well, you are episode 99, so we've been cranking them out for a while now, so we're really pleased to have you.
Nice. 99.
Yeah, 99. That's crazy.
99 episodes on the wall. Just listen to them all, right?
Yeah, we should just make like a massive playlist. That would be fun.
Ooh, you could do that, Luke. Maybe slow it down.
I'll be here forever. All right, Christine. Well, with that, we want you to enjoy the rest of your day and go do something awesome, all right?
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll catch you next time.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.